Hi, good afternoon. This is the last session before lunch, and it's the next frontier. Everyone's talking about the US, Latin America, and everyone is ignoring Africa, which is 54 countries. It's not. It's one of the poorest continents. I think it's 2 or 3% of worldwide GDP, which equivalent on that on gaming revenue. But it's actually a very interesting country and a huge opportunity, or country continent, but very diverse. And we have a panel which will hopefully take you through all the positives, all the negatives and challenges with regards to Africa. What I want to start is get them to give a quick introduction, then we'll get into the discussion. As I said before, if you've got any questions you want to ask, I'll have a moment of time toward the end for you to do it, but otherwise, please stick up your hand. All I ask is say who you are and who you work for. So over to you.
Ladies first.
Hi, everyone. My name's Carla. I am a strategic advisor at ConsultXD, but for the last 2 years, I've had razor focus on Africa, working with, I'd say, one of the top 3 sports books in Africa called BetPower. They are regulated in all 10 markets that we've been working in over the last 2 years. And yeah, I've been heading up marketing and growing the marketing team and working on market entry from a brand and marketing perspective.
Tyrone.
Great. Yeah, my name is Tyrone. I'm been in the industry since 2002, 2003, but really just focused on South Africa and Africa more recently. We started South Africa's first online-only sports book, and we've ventured out into a few other African territories. So.
Okay, thank you very much. The first question which you've got to ask, what are the positives about doing business in Africa?
Yay. I mean, Africa is fantastic. I've worked with operators in focusing on Scandinavia. I've done UK. I've done a bit of LATAM with Peru and Chile back in the day. And Africa is an absolute breath of fresh air. You need to know who your consumers are always when you're working in any type of company. It doesn't necessarily relate to gambling. But one of the positives is the opportunity in terms of volume of people. It's not your normal, revenues that one would expect, your rakes, your bets. It's not the same. It's nothing you don't even compare those type of things. But the volume and the reach, and if you do your branding well and you understand your consumers, the opportunities are very, very lucrative.
Absolutely. It's always been Africa's this land with vast mineral resources but honestly now the resources going into the future are its people, this exploding population, I think 1.5 billion people. Of course, it's made up of 54 different countries where they're all very different. So there's not a plug and play approach. And I think some of the exciting things, the thing that you bring into African markets, the credibility, it actually juxtaposes what the problems are as well, where you've got to be agile, you've got to be quick, you've got to adapt. But Africans in general we are super resilient, super adaptable, and if you're prepared to play in that market, it's a land of opportunity waiting for.
I think one of the positives thing as well is the adaptation to technology. So a lot of us sit and think, Africa, do they have data on their phone? I mean, think about it. They're just on their phone. We're still talking about, back in the day, let's become a mobile first company. Okay, well, Africa just zoomed past that and became mobile only. And that in itself is enablement on a whole different level when you look at the opportunity of reaching people, because everybody's got that, moment of maybe I'll just go and place a bet on my favorite team right now. Or maybe I'm just sitting here and I'm going to take a spin at a casino, which isn't a predominant product in the market, in my opinion, not quite yet. But still, I think that there's, the technology and the adaptation to technology and the fact that there is this, growing population of digital mobile users. I think that's phenomenal.
And it's just going to get more. The telecommunications sector is exploding.
Telco's going nuts. It's fantastic, isn't it? So exciting.
The landscape, the looking ahead landscape there's potential.
And one of the challenges, and this was not that long ago, it was feature phones. So it was USSD, which I think everyone in this room will not know what that is. if you come from Africa and you use it, it's you type in *123# whatever, and it comes up with a menu. And that was how people, because they had very primitive, they were primitive phones because smartphones are very expensive. That has changed.
Because the batteries last long.
Yeah, that's true. Another
There's
one.
no energy.
Electricity is also a challenge, particularly in South Africa. But what has happened is that, everyone is now moving very, very quickly to the smartphones. And not to the Apple phones, but to Android, the cheap Androids out of China, which are very affordable and therefore enable you to have a very different experience. So kind of, one of the challenges, and I'm going to throw the challenges in there. There's a lot of positive, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of opportunity. One of the challenges you have, and when I go down to South Africa, is data runs out so quick, and it is expensive. And so that's one of the challenges, which I'm taking one of the challenges from these guys, is data is expensive. So people are toggling on data on and off all the time. So you can't have a streamed football match for the person to watch. You've got to just give them base data to enable them to place a bet. So what other challenges do you see there?
I mean, I think one of the challenges, and I think it's just a little bit of naivety as well, as some companies entering the African market thinking that the product should be exactly the same as what you offer a customer in Europe. I mean, this is one of the challenges. Data is expensive, and they have a landscape of digital real estate that they also want to take content from. They want to be a little bit on Facebook. They want to go and check Instagram. They want to go on YouTube. They want to go and watch the rematches of some super game, right? So they've got this amount of data that they want to use themselves. But then we're going and thinking, you know what, let's grab the heaviest freaking sports book that exists on the market and plug it into Africa and think that it's just going to rain. It does not happen that way. You have to think of a customized product for your customized consumers. I mean, yes, it's a challenge, but also it's not something that's impossible.
No, just need to know
it. That's actually where the opportunity lies. I mean, Betway's modeled a great example. They've got a fantastic European product, but they don't use that in Africa. They know it doesn't work. Where that consumer, that mindset that goes, it's not like we've got data every day. We have to buy data daily. So we then also track how this page load time is 8 seconds, where everyone else's is 3. The data that's being consumed on this app is way more than I'm prepared to carry on with. So there's a lot of big questions that you need to start asking before you even step foot into the market, like as we do with all markets.
Yeah, and then also the product which one is offering it to all the various, we talk about the different jurisdictions out there, but the product offering is different. Your sportsbook is different, and there's partly driven by certain markets are very multiple driven. I remember going into a sportsbook in central Johannesburg, which had 100 tills and 4 people behind each till, and then equal amounts sitting around tables looking to kind of what they should be doing. So there's a huge real estate there, huge thing. And this individual had a bet slipper this long, and he had bet on 25 different legs, and I was saying, but you're never going to win this. He said, no, but look how much I could win. And so you kind of need to that. And as Carla said, very small amounts, very good margins, but very low value.
And just talking about the juxtaposition earlier, like that very small stake actually masks a lot of danger as well, because when you're looking at a top level, if you're not really getting into the numbers and looking at it granularly, it's so easy to miss or look over certain things. Bonus abuse, you don't notice it when it's on such small stakes, such small amounts, or such small margins. I don't know where we're talking about KYC in Europe. This is only just starting to be explored in Africa. So try and manage a business on risk without knowing who your customers are. It's tricky, it's difficult, but
and they are savvy bettors.
They are savvy.
They're going in because they want to win, right? And they've got the dream.
They study.
They're literally, and this is the thing about the consumer, right? Because to me, everything comes down about who your customer is and how they engage with you as a brand. And I think that that's something that took me a while to kind of disconnect from, it's like, this is not just some person who's coming in and just doing like I said earlier, like, okay, I'm just going to place a leisurely bet. You have those type of bettors as well. But these are guys are just like, they're into their sports. They're so passionate about sports. They want to kick a football every minute they can. And this also, this kind of, intensity also reflects onto how their betting behaviors are. And for this, risk, yes. Risk is key.
And you know what? And obviously, I think when you sit in Europe and you're reading all the press coming, the kind of regulatory notes and things, it all talks about regulatory changes in the environment and the challenge, and therefore one's perception of the regulatory and tax challenges in the jurisdiction. I'm particularly looking at Kenya, which, depending what day of the week it was, the tax was going up or down. Let's talk about regulation and tax in Africa. It's a very broad topic because there are 54 countries, noting that not all 54 countries do gambling and some of them are monopolies, so it is a smaller subset. However, it is still a lot more than there is in countries in Europe. So, Carla.
You've hit the Achilles heel of the challenges, right? Tax and understanding tax in every single market, where it's not clearly defined in even their own terms, let alone you sitting there trying to figure out, okay, what does this actually mean to a business? I haven't been dealing directly with the tax implications on the business within my role, but it certainly does come back to me because, especially you mentioned Kenya, they just randomly one day, and I don't know how random really it was, but decided that any gambling or tobacco companies also needed to start paying 15% tax on their advertising, to which thankfully the community of gambling companies came together and said, listen, if you impose this as well as all the other stuff you're doing, your operators are going to say bye-bye because this market isn't feasible.
And like Sportingbet left.
Yeah. And I think it's just like, it's also a question of sometimes regulators kind of being a little bit, not regulators, I would say more the countries themselves, trying to take a bit more cream than what they understand they can. I think that there's a lack, in some markets, there's a lack of a dialogue with the regulators, or maybe not the regulators again, with the governments themselves, understanding and thinking that these big companies are coming in and they're going to make lots of money and therefore, they need to give us 50% of what they make, without understanding the risk and the background of the operations of such businesses to be in the market from the start.
But I'm glad you said some countries, because you can go to Ghana or Tanzania where the regulators are approachable, where they're actually engaging, they're looking out for what's the opportunity here. Let's look at the rest of the world and let's regulate this, because competition online is a click away. And in Africa, where they can't control the illegal operators or the black market operators, the only answer is regulation and to work with the operators or suppliers in the industry.
Yeah.
And so there are conversations with certain regulators. And there's, again, you said it's the francophone, so East and West, and monopolistic versus open, or so every country has a different requirement.
And I will say that about Ghana as well. I mean, I've actually sat in the gambling boards offices and had
that beautiful house.
Beautiful house, and really like open-minded board of people who were just so happy to learn that I was based in Malta and that I've known about regulations and the new gaming regulations that the MGA have come out with. And we sat there and literally talked, I'd say, 20 minutes about the actual business that we actually needed to get done. And then the next hour was like, okay, how can we work towards better responsible gambling? How can we improve our KYC, because Ghana has KYC? How can we stop certain exploitations from operators here, there, and there? And they were so hungry for information, which again, it's very important to stress. Some markets, not all, some.
So, and you then go a little bit kind of in that area to Nigeria, where you try and work out who is the regulator.
Who is the regulator?
Whether it is the state, whether it is the national, what tax you're supposed to pay, and when you speak to anyone there, who, depending on which side of the street that kind of they're playing, will tell you that. So there are lots of interesting challenges with regards to that. And from a tax perspective, one of the things which one has to look out for is and what happened in Kenya was largely driven by the huge success of Sportingbet. It was massively successful. They became incredibly flash by buying lots of sponsorships on shirts in the UK for huge amounts of money. They realized people there, the local people got jealous. And also, they didn't take in what the previous panel was talking about, responsible gaming, very, very seriously. And so, therefore, there was, whether it was one case is too many, but I think it was a lot more of underage people playing through their mobile phones. And so, therefore, you've got to watch out. And the industry needs to, as was pointed out here, work with the regulator, but work in a way that you're protecting all the players within there.
Just two things on that. So South Africa, for example, is a super highly regulated market. But the operators enjoy. We can see the landscape. We know what we can do. The regulation's great. The problem is that they're not prepared to change regulation. Whereas, for example, Ghana is. They're aware. They're talking. They're embracing. If we look into what happened in Kenya, and actually, it opens a more broader question around how Africa gets to teach the rest of the world how to move money. Mobile payments is instant. Like when you push withdraw on your site, it's in your wallet instantly. There's no time delays. It's the same with deposit. That's instantaneous. So the questions you have to start asking around risk and protection, these are big company challenges. These are big decisions. And I think it was Charles Darwin, he said, it's not the strongest that survive. It's not the fastest or the quickest of the species. It's the one most agile, the one most resilient to change. And Africa is a constantly changing landscape. Like if you come in as a business that's agile, that can adapt, that can be quick. I think there's this proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But if you come in as an operator who can adapt and has a good local partnership, whether it be with the regulator or people, there's no reason why you can't succeed.
And Africa is significantly underbanked, as a lot of countries around the world, but in particular Africa. And so therefore, one immediate assumption is with regards to payments, the challenges. I don't know how educated the audience is on payments in Africa and how the mobile phone companies have, through the devices, got involved. So maybe Carla, you could take people through just how this works and how amazing it is.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been too involved in the tech stack in my role.
But just from a player experience perspective.
Yeah, I mean, as Tyrone was saying, it is instant, right? I mean, this whole, like, if you as a brand cannot, and I always refer to as a brand, right? Because that's what impacts the consumer. And your relationship with the consumer is heavily embedded on trust. Wherever you go, whichever conference you go to, whichever panel you ever hear about Africa, you're always going to constantly hear this word, trust. Your consumer must trust your brand. And there are some pinnacle pillars, let's call them, of trust that needs to be built. And one of that is via the telcos you integrate into your platform, by the speed of how you can transact the money in, but most importantly, how they get it out, right? Because this is not some consumer that's expecting to sit on chair and leave their money in their account. They will deposit, but as soon as they win or they don't win, they want to take it out. So you will see sports books in Africa doing phenomenal amounts of mobile money transactions. I've never seen as many mobile money transactions in my life and transactions as I have after working in the African-facing markets. So it's very much, come in, register, deposit, money in, bet, money out, right? And you're looking at like keywords such as withdraw your money within 2-3 seconds, response time 2-3 seconds. This is the interaction that's expected from brands and expected by consumers. And if you cannot deliver that and you cannot pay them their win, then and transact their win quickly to them, then they don't trust you. And then it's probably in the news and your competitors benefiting from it somewhere.
Yeah, no, I agree. You echoed completely. The other challenge is, for example, how do we communicate with our customers? How are we here in Europe communicating? We emailing, we sending push notifications and apps. It's heavy data. In Africa, it's still text message or
radio.
You've got to be available on the channel that they use. So whether a Telegram or WhatsApp, that's how you need to talk to your consumer. You can't walk around looking for a plug-and-play solution that works for CRM and bring it into the market. You have to really listen and localize everything on your platform, everything.
And, just experience in South Africa, which is more banked than mobile money is not as significant in South Africa as it is in, for instance, in Kenya. But within the banking app, if you go to your banking app, you can purchase a lottery ticket. So they've KYC'd you. If you win, they put the money back in. If it's above a certain amount, you've got to go to the lottery and get it. But you can actually buy a significant proportion of the transactions are done through banking. So everyone is very innovative to make things happen. Now, one of the things we spoke about is trust and brand. How do you get your name out there? And then comes down to this massive question around online, retail, and whether you need retail to create the brand to allow you to be online or whatever.
I think that's market specific,
Yeah.
territory specific. I don't think there's a one size answer for that. Businesses will have different strategies depending on the markets they enter into. But without a doubt, the networking and the people, the credibility, you can get so much traction through retail, through physical presence, through little kiosks. Online, we're blind to banners. We're blind to marketing. Maybe if you're really serious about getting into most of the African markets on a Pan-African approach, I would definitely say add retail into your mix. Just consider it. It's that credibility, it's that availability that Africans need to trust.
Carla?
Yeah, obviously the company that I've been engaged with is not retail focused, so that was not an option or anything that I've really experienced, except for in Rwanda, where it was part of the regulation to have a physical shop as part of getting your license. What I would say is, let's talk about a little bit maybe about the marketing mix, and this is something that's probably filled my heart as a marketeer with so much joy, dare I say, is the fact that in Africa, you still have a marketing mix. The regulators have rules, so it's market specific. You can and cannot do certain things even online or offline, but you do have the ability to do things like billboard, bus branding, guerrilla marketing, radio, so you have this marketing mix that you can engage with, and then it's about figuring out which works best. But I do believe, and I'll go back to that trust point, is that Africans consumers are very much, and this feels like, and it's a sweeping statement because it's not statistically proven by myself, but it feels very much that across all the markets that I have worked with is that seeing is believing. If you as a brand can afford a billboard,
You must
then
be real.
you can afford to pay me, right? When I win, whatever I win. If you have a shop where I can walk into, then that's a roof, and therefore you're real, right? Because there's this hesitation of thinking like, oh, you're online, you could be made up, we don't trust you. So I do feel that maybe not so much retail part for us, but very much that tangible connection to offline is essential for the online marketing mix also to work to a way in which it converts much better.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we operate in Ghana, Nigeria, a couple of other African markets, South Africa, Zambia, but we don't have any retail presence. We online only. We're fully focused on mobile. The reality, though, is at every point in every new market I've been going, maybe we should open a shop. Like maybe we should have a presence just to shortcut, just to provide a little bit of quick trust. So if you're entering, consider it. And those marketing mixes, that exciting stuff in marketing, your consumer, the cost of acquiring a customer is very cheap in Africa, but the lifetime value of that customer is also next to nothing. So be very conscious about your formula. Be very conscious about your spend on those.
Oh yeah.
On those.
I mean, the CPAs that I saw when I first walked into the African markets, I was like, what? Where's the zeros? Like, this is clearly something's wrong. Like, this is impossible. But then again, yes, you have to look at the full picture. Lifetime value is very different. The stake that the players are playing is very different. But once you gain loyalty, I do believe it does give you
Increase
that.
loyalty.
Then there's a tipping point. I think I do think there's a tipping point of loyalty, which then does give you the return. But with that said, maybe towards one of the negatives, I've never seen such expensive prices ever in my life for certain offline media in Africa. I mean, prices that compare to like London billboards. Really, seriously, it's just insane.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things, every single market is different. So in Tanzania, for example, retail is important because it's where people top up. So it can be a market. Nigeria, it literally at one stage was only retail,
Agents.
and it's just flipping like massively. Last year it was 80%. I think this year will be down to 60%.
Well, that's highly due to MTN finally getting mobile money,
getting mobile
right?
money working.
So that's like what that started maybe
18 months ago.
Yeah, but like now it's kind of been adopted, and there were some challenges with that, so it's kind of taking off a
So
little
you
bit.
need to constantly evolve. Are there any questions out there in the audience? Because I know that we're in between you and lunch. Oh, there's a question.
Hi, this is Roman. I work for sports betting affiliate, and we actually have a lot of African traffic. And it's sort of like a business decision: are we going to follow up on this African traffic or not, and try to monetize it? From what I understand, is it true that? Hi, this is Roman from Web International Services, an affiliate, and we're a sports betting affiliate. Basically, we do have a lot of African traffic. And what we're looking into as a business, basically, we're trying to decide whether or not this traffic is actually valuable because we're producing a lot of it. So is it, to my understanding, it's all about volumes and not really about a high player value? Is this how you can truly, make money long term?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have an affiliate background from a fair many moons ago, and if I were to look at Africa with the same eyes that I looked at my previous affiliate businesses, I would be questioning myself as well. It is volume, like insane amounts of volume, insane amount of traffic. You need to be like looking at high volume in order to make that model work for you.
But just on a commercial
Carla?
level, sorry, I'll let you come back. On a commercial level, it's very important that we get that mix right, because we don't want to pay on volume. We don't want to be seen by X number and then that's your rate card. It needs to be what it's worth. Like,
Yep.
what's that value of that mass?
You do need to understand also the operational side of things, because and most affiliates do get that part right, because it depends if they're working CPA or you're thinking of working rev share. But I think it's very important to understand that going to it, like if anybody would come to me, any newspaper or anything like that, and say, oh, because we have so many impressions, I was like, yeah, join the other 100 other websites that also have the same amount of impressions. We're not interested in impressions, we're interested in conversion, especially with our digital media buy.
Just to follow up, because I find that very interesting. You just said basically that brand exposure is indeed as well very important. Like just the example of I have a shop, so I must be trustworthy. Do you think it's the same for online media as well? Are you trustworthy because you're on my affiliate website and basically you're on the top of what I recommend, and I'm an authority in Africa?
That's a good point. Depending on who you're representing, what's your community? Are you trusted by locals? Is this a brand ambassador that's associating to your brand? If it's just a foreign web live score, I mean,
Your brand needs to have a certain amount of authority for us to know, like the brands, the operators to know that your consumers trust you, because otherwise anybody could just be buying that banner, right? And you might be promoting a non-regulated operator, for example. So why would I trust your brand? And I think that comes very full circle with the trust argument. It's not just on the operator side, it's full facing.
Great, thanks a lot.
Any other questions? Oh, question behind you. You've just handed the mic.
Hello, my name is Alexandra and I'm from Fuzzy Company. We are an online gaming provider. So my question is how providers can help to operators so we can build long-lasting relationship with the players, because we are working on the African market and we know how important it is to have specific products, because players there, they like to play light games, but as I noticed, they're really associating with our games. So is it smart move to maybe make a recognizable brand from the provider side and then to give to the operators that brand, or to maybe build a brand through the operators?
There's actually two examples that I can think of. Hollywood Bets in South Africa brought a brand in, Bet Games TV, that's eventually they actually built that business's brand in the market. But on the other side, for example, in Nigeria, people will ask for virtuals. They don't mind who or what, they just want to play virtuals. They trust virtuals more than their local leagues, and but understandably why. Yeah, that's a commercial decision, and I think it's very market specific. But definitely, the first point you made is you're prepared to engage with the operators, and then the operators who represent the consumer. That's going to be key, crucial, working together.
Thank you.
Okay, and just one final question to the panel. You know, I know this is a huge. What is the one, if you had a company from Europe or someone who wanted to get into Africa, what is the one bit of advice you'll give them? Carla.
Do not think your European-based product will work for the African market. Doing so is very naive.
Yeah, it won't just work.
Pardon?
It won't just work.
Won't just work.
Yeah.
You need to hone your product. And I think we've seen players enter the markets and do exactly that, and then they realize, oh, actually, yeah.
But like I said in the beginning, Africa's always been this place where the mineral wealth has been it's the land of opportunity. Now, if you are actually, I think it was Arten Senna, he said you can't overtake 15 people on a sunny race day, but when it's raining, you can get into first place so quickly. And I think that's the same in Africa. If you want to leapfrog into first place, just localize the product, look at how difficult it is to operate in that market, and execute. Execute on those things that you need to. And you can be in first place very quickly.
And I think just on that product, localized product, and know your customer. I mean, not in a KYC, that's wonderful as well, but I think, know your customers in each and every market, how they engage with gambling. Do they even understand gambling? I mean, we recently entered DRC, and the consumers there are not so savvy about gambling. We just had a panel about the US year before talking about, some consumers just don't know how to place a bet, right? And doing that is like almost your obligation as an operator to make sure that people understand what they're doing and what they're getting into, dare I say, when they interact with your product. Customer, product.
Yeah, and the only other final one I had there is it's for the brave, because it is complicated and you have to spend time and it takes a lot of work. So don't expect just to literally walk into a country and be successful. And the other thing is to have local teams for the customization and also find the right local partner. There's so many people out, as there's everyone in the world, who is best friends with the president's son, and he can sort you out a license, just give them $1 million up front. There are lots of those dreams out there. Find the right ones. Don't fool yourself.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank the panel. Thank you very much. And it's lunchtime.
Thanks.